I ever exaggerate how exhilarating it was to be welcomed to the Capitol by these wonderful, beautiful little children who were so proud of themselves and how they hoped that we would understand that they are the future, that they would be somebody, and that was our responsibility to help them be so. And as I said, it was part of our campaign all along that this election was about the future, about the responsibility one generation has to the next to make the future better. So I thought it was heaven sent, really, just a perfect, perfect way to start a new day after the election. That was this morning. Yesterday, the beauty and the genius of our democracy, the American people spoke with their votes. And they spoke for change, and they spoke in support of a new direction for all Americans. Supporting a great array of magnificent, talented Democratic candidates. They chose a Democratic majority to address the concerns of America's working families and, of course, to address the concern that the American people have about the war in Iraq. This new Democratic majority has heard the voices of the American people. They spoke out for a new direction to bring integrity back to Washington, and we will make this the most honest, ethical, and open Congress in history. The American people spoke out for a return to civility in the Capitol in Washington and how Congress conducts its work. And Democrats pledge civility and bipartisanship in the conduct of the work here. And we pledged partnerships with the Congress, the Republicans in Congress, and with the President, and not partisanship. And they talked about a new direction in terms of the fairness of our economy in our country. And Democrats are working for an economy that enables all Americans to participate in the economic success of our country. But nowhere was the call for a new direction more clear from the American people than in the war in Iraq. This is something that we must work together with the President. We know that stay the course is not working. It has not made our country safer. It has not honored our commitment to our troops, and it has not brought stability to the region. We must not continue on this catastrophic path. And so hopefully we can work with the President for a new direction, one that solves the problem in Iraq. So with integrity, with civility, with bipartisanship that goes with that, with fiscal responsibility, so we're not heaping mountains of debt on those young children that were at the foot of the steps of the Capitol this morning. And we intend to go forward with our 6 for 06 that we talked about in the campaign, to make America safer, to make our economy fair, to make college more affordable, to make health care more accessible and better by promoting stem cell research, to move toward energy independence, to guarantee a dignified retirement, to do this again in a fiscally sound way with civility, integrity, and bipartisanship. That is where we are going with this. The American people, with their votes yesterday, placed their trust in the Democrats. We will honor that trust. We will not disappoint. Mike?
To the extent that, and you mentioned that Iraq is the biggest issue on voters' minds. To the extent that you have a mandate, Iraq, in your mandate, to do something about Iraq, what can you do as a leader of the House of Representatives, and what will you do specifically to force the President's hand on the policy of Iraq?
It's not about the Democrats in Congress forcing the President's hand. The American people have spoken. It's important for us to work in a bipartisan way with the President, again, to solve the problem, not to stay the course. That's not working. That's clear. And if there is anything clear in the election results, it was that the more the President campaigned on the war, the fewer votes the Republicans who supported that got, and that it took its toll on the Republicans. So the campaign is over, as I say. Democrats are ready to lead. We're prepared to govern, but that means in a bipartisan way, in a system that is self-evident. The President is the President of the United States. I hope that he will listen to the voices of the people, and that, again, putting aside partisanship and looking to a partnership to end this war. We've written to him in the past on this subject, Senator Harry Reid and I, the leader in the Senate, and the leadership of the committees of jurisdiction on this subject, and said that we want to work together in a bipartisan way to send a clear message to the Iraqi government and people that they must disarm the militias, they must amend their constitution, they must engage in regional diplomacy to bring more stability and reconstruction to Iraq, and that we must begin the responsible redeployment of our troops outside of Iraq. We've said that over and over again.
Redeployment to begin by the end of the year.
That's right. That's what we have, and we look forward to having a conversation with the President, and I hope that as respectful as we are of the results of the election, I'm certain the President will be too. In fact, I spoke with the President this morning, and he said, look, we didn't talk about Iraq, but we both expressed our wish to work in a bipartisan way for the benefit of the American people, and I think that nowhere is that more necessary than in ending the problem in Iraq. Yes, Dana?
The expectations at this point do seem to be rather high from, as you point out, perhaps from the American people, and even we're hearing this morning on the streets of Iraq that because there is a new House of Representatives, that the policy in Iraq will change. So how do you manage expectations given the reality of the fact that it is the President who dictates foreign policy, especially through war?
But I think that there has to be a signal of a change of direction on the part of the President. And one good place he could start is a place where not only the Democrats and large numbers of the American people, but the voices of the military have spoken out, and that is to change the civilian leadership at the Pentagon. That would signal an openness to new, fresh ideas on the subject. But again, that's not something we're going to resolve in this conversation here. That's a conversation that time will be better spent in conversation with the President.
Natalie, could you describe a little bit more of your conversation with the President this morning? And are Democratic leaders going to be visiting the White House today or in the next couple of days?
It was a very brief conversation with the President. He called to congratulate me, referred to me as Madam Speaker-elect, and I referred to him as Mr. President. And that took up the first part of the conversation. But seriously, I welcomed the President's call as a sign of respect of the voice, the votes of the American people, and a recognition that we will be talking about issues of concern to the American people. He expressed his intention to work in a bipartisan way. I reiterated mine as well. As I said to him last night, I said that I wanted to work with him and the Republicans in Congress in a bipartisan way. He then said, I think it would be important for us to get together for lunch tomorrow. And to tell you the honest truth, the call was so very, very early in the morning that I almost thought the lunch was today. You know, he starts the day very early. But in any event, I don't know who will be at the meeting, whether it'll be bipartisan or just Democrats. It's the President's meeting, and he will invite who he invites. One way or another, we look forward to beginning the conversation in a bipartisan way with the President.
Two quick questions. Senator Lee said this morning he wanted a bipartisan Iraq summit with President Bush and with the draft date favor as well. Is that something that you're also pursuing? Second of all, if the Senate is also led by the Democrats, how will that change the dynamic of what Democrats are going to do?
In a very exciting way. The second part of the question.
Could you elaborate?
Yeah. Now, first of all, I think that we should have as much discussion as possible, as I think I've said now, in a bipartisan way on the war in Iraq. This is not the way you go to war in a partisan way. It really isn't. And so maybe a way to solve the problem is to do so in a bipartisan way. So and then in terms of the outcome of the elections, well, we won't know maybe for a couple of weeks what is going to happen on the Senate side. But whatever the outcome in terms of the final two elections to be resolved, the numbers picked up by the Senate bode very well for our having